The sky over Eridani 7B was no sky at all, just a churning haze of violet clouds, thick with charged particles and the scentless chemical rain of an alien world. Bursts of plasma fire streaked through the upper atmosphere, burning like silent thunder. Captain Kayla Rowe, call sign Strider 4, gritted her teeth and slammed her palm onto the stabilizer controls as her ship spiraled downward. The HUD blinked red in all directions, structural integrity critical. Fuel empty, shields offline. A Velkar warship loomed in her rear display like a metal insect. Angular and glowing with predatory intent, it fired again. A lance of plasma kissed the wing of her craft, and the entire left thruster was vaporized. Alarm screamed, the cockpit spun, gravity tilted then inverted. Her hands flew over the emergency commands. "Strider 4 going down," she shouted into the comm, but all she got was static. Nothing would reach her unit through the charged ionosphere of Eridani's lower layers. She was alone, falling fast, and the planet's surface was not land but ocean, a sprawling biome of phosphorescent death. Uncharted and deemed too volatile for exploration. A hiss, pressure loss, then a deep, dull thud as the Strider broke through the last atmospheric layer. Below her, the sea churned with an unnatural light. The surface shimmered in pulses of lavender and cobalt, like a living thing breathing beneath the waves. She had only seconds. Kayla hit the ejection protocol. The cockpit exploded outward with compressed force, launching her survival pod into a barely controlled arc. It hit the ocean like a cannonball, shattering the light around it. She blacked out for less than a second, just enough to taste the pain blooming along her ribs. When she opened her eyes, the cockpit canopy had already clouded with condensation. Her ears rang, the pod groaned with pressure stress. Silence, then the long moan of metal warping. She scrambled to activate internal systems. The readouts were grim: oxygen 46 minutes, temperature regulation intermittent. Hull breach in the lower quadrant, sealed for now but weakening. She touched the wound at her side, warm, not deep but enough to slow her. No signal, no orbiting satellites, no squadron, just this pod and this ocean. The sea outside glowed in alien rhythm. The deep shimmer of biofluorescence rippled like thoughts in liquid form. Moving in slow, colossal patterns far too organized to be coincidence. Kayla leaned forward. Something was moving beneath her. At first she thought it was the current. Then she saw it, an outline too large to grasp in a single glance. A ridged back, scales the size of fighter wings, curved spines trailing bioluminescent pulses in a language no human had ever learned to read. Her breath caught. The pod shifted slightly as if the ocean itself inhaled beneath her. A shadow passed, massive, intentional. Her fingers hovered over the emergency flare trigger. She didn't fire. Instead, she waited, frozen, while her mind cycled through every species profile she'd ever seen. This wasn't one of them, not officially, not cataloged. But she'd heard the stories, old rumors from deep space explorers and rogue xenobiologists. Myths passed down in encrypted forums, redacted transcripts. Leviathans, they were called, oceanic predators too intelligent to track, too elusive to kill. No evidence, no footage, no survivors, until now. The creature circled once slowly, the way a shark might circle a drifting swimmer. Kayla noticed the lights again, dots along its body, flickering in a rhythmic pattern. Like a code or a heartbeat, she whispered, "What are you?" No response. Of course not. The pod creaked again, a loud metallic pop. She was sinking, just barely but sinking. The breach in the undercarriage was growing. If she stayed, the pod would implode within an hour. But the ocean wasn't offering escape, only silence. And a presence, then movement. The Leviathan rose closer to the surface. Just enough for its enormous eye to meet the transparent cockpit dome. a vertical slit of layered colors, glowing from within. It blinked once slowly. Kayla forgot to breathe. She should have been afraid. But it didn't feel like prey and predator. It felt like a question being asked. Suddenly her suit beeped, her external lights malfunctioning. Flickering in erratic, unsynced patterns, the Leviathan jerked back, its body lighting in a sharp burst of crimson blue. Then disappearing into the black depths, gone, Kayla exhaled. She looked down at the display. Her lights had triggered a defensive reaction. It had been trying to communicate, if not in words, then in pulses. Patterns, and she had replied with chaos. The surface stilled. She sat in silence, the distant thunder of alien sky warships now meaningless. Her mind raced. If that thing had wanted to kill her, it already would have. Instead, it had watched and waited. That meant something. Her fingers hovered over the suit controls again. There was no escape here. Not through firepower, not through force, only through understanding. She stared into the deep violet sea and whispered to no one, "You're not a monster, are you?" No answer came. But the waters below began to glow once more, soft pulses like breathing. And Kayla Rowe realized her war hadn't ended in the sky. It had just begun, down here in the silence with a creature whose language was light. And she had to learn to speak it before time ran out. Kayla Rowe didn't believe in redemption, not anymore. At 34, she had once been the most decorated tactical pilot in the Pacific Star Alliance, an elite unit that prided itself on precision, obedience, and clean kills. She flew with the cold focus of a machine and the instincts of a predator. The kind of soldier they put in recruitment posters without needing to retouch the glare in her eyes. But she wasn't in the sky now. She lay crumpled in a survival pod, soaked in condensation and shadows, listening to the broken hum of failing life support. Her left arm throbbed beneath the flight suit, scar tissue protesting the cold. It ran from elbow to wrist, a pale reminder carved by fire and steel from a mission no one dared to speak of. Novex 2. The official report claimed the orbital strike had been successful, strategic elimination of high-value targets. No mention of the children. No mention of the scream Kayla had heard before the order came through. No mention of her refusal. She had disobeyed a direct command. Not out of mercy, but because the numbers didn't add up. Something felt off. She hesitated, and when she finally acted, it was already too late. They suspended her. No trial, no apology, no second chance. She was offered only silence, and a final assignment that wasn't officially sanctioned. A ghost mission, cloaked in vague terminology and dead coordinates. One-way insertion onto Eridani 7b, a planet written off by science divisions and war councils alike. The ocean world, the violet graveyard, a place no one came back from. She accepted without asking why, now drifting somewhere between the surface and whatever lay beneath. She activated the pod's internal recorder and began to speak. "This is Captain Kayla Rowe, Flight ID Strider 4, mission timestamp plus 18 hours. Life support failing, estimated oxygen 31 minutes. Her voice cracked slightly, not from fear but from disuse. In battle, she was used to giving terse commands, short bursts. No space for reflection, no room for memory, but down here the silence made space for everything. She closed her eyes. "If anyone ever finds this, you'll want to know why I came here. Why I agreed to a mission I wasn't supposed to survive." She paused, "Because I killed the wrong people once. And I thought maybe if I let myself die right this time, it would balance out." The console blinked, flashing warnings she'd stopped caring about. Temperature dropping, pressure fluctuating, battery critical. She leaned back, letting the cold seat take her weight. The stars were blocked by the planet's clouds. The sea outside glowed faintly like a heartbeat buried beneath skin. She remembered the first time she flew solo. She was 19, cocky, still believing in glory. The instructors said she had a death wish. They were wrong. She just wanted to know how far she could go before something broke. It turned out to be herself. Now, Kayla wasn't fighting for medals. She wasn't fighting at all. She had signed up to disappear, to trade a life of shame for a clean vanishing. She reached toward the emergency beacon switch. Her hand hovered. The system would send a final pulse to orbit, a last plea. But she didn't want to be found. Not yet, not after Novix. Not after the people she failed. Her fingers moved to power down the recorder. But then a sound, low, distant, unnatural, not static. Not machine. It was a growl, deep and resonant, vibrating through the steel under her. Not an explosion, not turbulence. It was alive. Kayla froze. She slowly turned toward the viewing dome, peering into the violet waters. The glow shifted subtly. Something vast moved beneath the surface, too large for scale, too slow for current. Her training kicked in. Her right hand slipped to the emergency flare system, but she didn't launch it. The growl came again, closer now, measured, intentional. Kayla's pulse quickened. She had faced death in countless forms, missiles, sabotage, ambush, betrayal. But this felt different. This wasn't death from above. It was something watching her from below. She adjusted the exterior lights of the pod, turning the brightness down to avoid provoking whatever was out there. The glow outside changed in response, soft pulses of bioluminescence sweeping in arcs, as if testing her. Testing how she would respond. She leaned forward, heart hammering. Her instincts screamed retreat, but something deeper, older, whispered, wait. Kayla's breath fogged the glass. The shape in the deep coalesced, long, sinuous, scaled like the underbelly of a planet. A Leviathan, no doubt now, the kind of monster scientists dismissed as myths. The kind of thing soldiers never got to report on because none survived the encounter. The creature circled, slow as a moon's orbit. Kayla reached up to the recorder again. I lied, she whispered. I don't want to die. She looked out at the glowing eyes of the Leviathan, meeting a gaze that should have inspired terror but didn't. It felt like being seen, not as a threat, not as prey, but as something unfinished. Kayla Rowe, former ace pilot, disgraced captain, drifted in a dead sea on a dead planet. Finally felt the pull of something that wasn't guilt. It was instinct, it was purpose, and it was waking up. The violet sea stretched endlessly in all directions, rippling with an otherworldly glow beneath the twin moons of Eridani 7b. Kayla Rowe's survival pod drifted like a speck of forgotten metal across its luminous surface. A relic of war stranded in a place that cared nothing for rank or memory. Inside, she sat with her knees drawn to her chest, the flight suit's temperature regulator humming faintly. The suit had 6 hours of power left. Her rations were gone. The emergency water recycler coughed every 10 minutes. Her throat burned from dehydration, but she didn't bother checking the filters anymore. Outside, the Leviathan circled. It hadn't left since it first appeared, and Kayla had stopped pretending it was coincidence. The creature was watching her, not like a predator hunting meat, but like something ancient and intelligent studying a stranger. Every few minutes it surfaced just beneath the pod, barely a ripple, its massive body aglow with fluid chains of bioluminescent pulses that danced across its skin like Morse code from another universe. Cyan, indigo, white, a complex rhythm, intentional. Measured, Kayla stared back, exhausted but alert, each time it rose. Her hands twitched toward the control panel where the pod's mounted energy cannon waited, dormant but ready. A single shot would ignite the ocean, drive the creature back, maybe even kill it if aimed right. But she hadn't fired. Not yet. Instead, she accessed the pod's biological archive again. Voice cracking as she searched through the old, redacted logs from the first deep ocean expeditions. Entry 49. Unconfirmed encounter. Leviathan class subject did not engage immediately. Exhibited observational behavior, pacing, circling, light emission. Reaction appeared contingent on perceived intent of the observer. Hostile response only triggered after subject registered threat behavior or fear signals. Recommendation: if encountered, do not initiate aggression. Do not display panic. Do not respond with force. Kayla read it twice. Do not respond with fear, she whispered aloud, voice dry as sand. Easy advice from someone who had never sat eye-to-eye with a creature the length of a skyscraper. Floating in a C2 alien for physics, still, something in the pattern of the lights. The rhythm of the pulses, it felt like a question being asked. Over and over, she watched closely as it circled again. This time the lights along its dorsal fins shimmered with a slow, repeating series. Short pulse, long pulse, short. A pause, then again. It wasn't random. Kayla sat forward, opening the diagnostics console on her suit. The emergency comm system had a basic light emitter built into the helmet for rescue signaling. Crude, limited, but it could be tuned. She stared out the dome. If this is language, she muttered, I have to speak. Her fingers hovered over the controls. She synced the external lights to emit short bursts. Slowly, clumsily, she tried to mirror the creature's last sequence. Short, long, short. The sea didn't change. For a few seconds the Leviathan vanished beneath the surface. Then a low hum reverberated through the pod, not mechanical but organic. The creature surfaced again, slower this time. The lights across its body shifted. Not the same sequence, a new one, short, long. Pause, Kayla's heart pounded. She tried to mimic it. Her fingers trembled, but she matched the pattern. Short, long, pause, a moment passed, then the creature responded again. Longer now, 4 pulses, then 5, then back to the original pattern. It was testing her, teaching her, conversing. Kayla didn't know if it was true language or just mimicry. But it was enough to stop her from reaching for the cannon. That was the real choice, fear or communication, kill or learn. She thought about Novex too, the moment when she had hesitated, trying to verify civilian presence before launching the strike. It had cost lives, but not because she waited, because she didn't wait long enough. She had trusted faulty intel, acted on impulse masked as orders. Now, floating above a Leviathan that could shatter her pod with a flick of its tail, she understood what she'd never admitted before. Killing was easy, listening was the real risk. She took another breath. Her suit's lights emitted a soft glow, carefully mirroring the latest sequence. The Leviathan hovered in place, then almost imperceptibly. It lowered itself so that its massive eye aligned with the transparent dome of her pod. Kayla froze, it blinked, an impossibly slow gesture. Not hostile, not afraid, just present, the moment stretched. Then the creature descended again, its tail sweeping gently beneath her pod, sending a ripple through the water like a signature. Kayla watched it vanish into the depths, her lights still blinking faintly. She sat in silence, adrenaline fading. Her hands were damp. Her throat still dry, but her heart was no longer thrashing against her ribs. It was steady, focused. The predator had offered her a choice. And she hadn't chosen to be prey. She had chosen to speak. And something out there had listened. The ocean had gone still, eerily so. Kayla sat rigid in the cramped cockpit of the survival pod, breath shallow, watching as the Leviathan's colossal form drifted closer than ever before. The sea around it shimmered in halos of refracted light, as though the water itself bowed to its presence. It was beautiful, terrifying, and impossibly close. The creature's head broke the surface silently, rising with the gravity of a tide. Its eye, round and impossibly deep, hovered just meters from the transparent dome of her pod. Kayla felt the instinct to recoil, but forced herself to remain still. Then, with a ripple across its armored spine, the Leviathan pulsed. A series of light bursts danced down its dorsal ridge. 18, maybe 20 discrete flashes, timed in unpredictable patterns. No longer the simple exchanges of earlier. This was language layered in meaning. Fast, complex, precise. Kayla stared, mind racing to memorize it to translate. But it was too much. Her fingers scrambled over the light emitter interface on her suit, trying to recreate the pattern. She copied the rhythm as best she could, short, long pause cluster, but her third sequence lagged. Lights misfiring by fractions of a second, too slow. The Leviathan reared back and roared. It wasn't sound so much as vibration, pure resonance that thundered through the pod's frame and into Kayla's bones. The water convulsed in all directions, slamming her pod sideways like a child's toy. She hit her shoulder hard against the console, cursing as alarms screamed. Outside, the sea exploded in streaks of panicked color. Kayla gasped, struggling to reset the stabilizers. Her heart pounded, not from fear of death, but from the devastating realization she'd failed to respond. Failed to speak its language, and in doing so she triggered a warning. A rejection. The Leviathan wasn't attacking, it was testing. And she had proven herself inadequate. Then came the high-pitched chime of the proximity alert. Something else was approaching. Kayla's HUD displayed a signature on the periphery, metallic, moving fast. Dropping altitude from the upper thermosphere, no descending. A Velkar patrol ship, her breath caught. A sleek, obsidian vessel broke through the clouds moments later, gliding low over the ocean's surface. Its hull emitted pulses of scanning light, standard lifeform detection. Designed to sweep oceans for heat or movement, the Leviathan froze mid-motion, every glowing plate on its body dimming. Kayla saw it happen in slow motion, recognition, tension. Reflex. The Leviathan's body tensed as the scan passed over her pod. Kayla's console flared, lifeform detected, her location was now marked. The Velkar ship circled once, slow, deliberate, predatory. A second scan burst down toward her, and in that moment Kayla understood the stakes. The Leviathan had been tolerant of her presence, curious even. But it hadn't yet distinguished her from the ones who burned oceans, who launched scans like weapons. The Velkar's signal mimicked aggression. The creature's biolights flared orange, an instinctive defensive response. It was going to strike. Kayla's eyes darted to the distress beacon. It blinked steadily, broadcasting her location to anyone listening. She could boost it, trigger full SOS protocol, call for rescue. A human carrier could intercept in hours, maybe less. But the Leviathan would be dead by then. The Velkar would provoke it. And the Alliance would arrive too late to stop the bloodshed, too early not to join in. Kayla hovered between two choices, each demanding surrender to a different fear. Abandon the creature she was beginning to understand. Or abandon the only chance she had to survive. Her hand moved, slowly, deliberately. She reached down and deactivated the beacon. The pod went dark. The flashing light on her suit vanished. The only glow that remained was from the ocean and the creature itself, still. Hovering, now confused, waiting. Then Kayla did something mad. She activated the auxiliary lighting grid on the pod, one reserved for deep-sea navigation, and set it to manual override. Fingers trembling, she tapped out the only pattern she knew, the earlier sequence the Leviathan had shown her. As close to perfect as she could recall, short, long. Cluster pause, she repeated it again and again. The Velkar ship hovered above her, its own scan beams intensified, sweeping the area. Kayla didn't blink. Outside, the Leviathan blinked once, massive eyes shifting from gold to a deep green. Then something shifted. The creature slowly descended, deeper into the water, its bioluminescent patterns dimming until they matched the gentle rhythm Kayla was transmitting. Its body relaxed. It no longer pulsed red with threat, no longer flared with warning. It was listening again. Kayla let out a shaky breath. The Velkar patrol failing to pick up additional signatures in the absence of her beacon. Slowly banked east. After one last scan pass, it pulled upward, disappearing back into the ionized clouds. The ocean calmed. Kayla slumped back into her seat, muscles aching, lips cracked. She had just committed the unthinkable, refused rescue, turned off the only signal that could have brought her home. To protect a creature no human science had ever truly documented. Because in its eyes, she had seen something no war ever taught her to recognize: recognition. She opened the pod's exterior lights one final time and pulsed the sequence again. This time the Leviathan responded immediately, a slow, wide circle around her pod. Not hunting, accompanying, Kayla allowed herself the smallest of smiles. Light, it turned out, didn't always mean fire. Sometimes it meant trust. Twilight bled across the horizon of Eridani 7B in bands of crimson and deep violet, casting long shadows over the endless, glowing sea. The air shimmered with ions, the ocean pulsed with breathless tension. And atop the vast, gliding back of a Leviathan, Kayla Rowe crouched, her suit's magnetic tethers anchoring her to its slick, bioluminescent skin. She had no saddle, no control system, no map, just instinct and a bond no one would believe. Beneath her, the Leviathan swam silent and swift, slicing through the waters like a phantom. Its body undulated with purpose, each ripple of muscle propelling them closer to the enemy she had hoped would never return. But the Velkar had returned. High above, casting angular shadows through the clouds, hovered a full-sized Velkar dreadship asterisk, 20 times the size of her original fighter. Its underbelly burned with scanning lasers and weapon ports, the hull lined with biomatter latches for deploying ground units. She'd seen ships like that lay waste to entire colonies. This one had come for the creature. Kayla adjusted her stance as the Leviathan slowed. They were now just under the fringe of the dreadship's scanning zone. She raised a gloved hand, tapped her wrist panel. Her suit's sensors showed 3 life-form drones already in the water, organic mechanical hybrids bred for heat detection, movement tracking, and swift assassination. They were hunting, and Kayla was glowing. The drones moved fast, sleek shapes just below the surface, emitting sonar bursts that set the Leviathan's body twitching in agitation. It hadn't flared red yet, but she could feel the tension rising under her boots. Then her comm crackled. "Strider 4, this is Pacific Star High Command. You are broadcasting from a restricted quadrant. Confirm your position and status." Kayla didn't respond. The message repeated, followed by a new voice, one colder, more precise. "Kayla Rowe, satellite feed confirms proximity to Class VI aquatic megafauna. You are hereby ordered to remain in observational position. Do not engage. Record and transmit all biological data immediately." Her jaw tightened. They didn't care about her survival. They didn't care about the creature's sentience. To the Alliance, this was a unique biological asset, something to be captured, dissected, duplicated. A potential weapon. Kayla knew how that would end. Leviathans were not meant to be caged. She shut off the comm. Then another signal pinged, this time from above. The Velkar dreadship released something from its belly. A cluster of 4 drones, larger, armed, they plunged into the sea like needles from the sky. The Leviathan arched suddenly, letting out a low, guttural sound that Kayla now understood wasn't rage, it was warning. Instinct took over. Kayla activated her suit's manual emitter and flicked the light pattern into the direction of the dreadship. 3 short bursts, then a long one followed by a cascade. It was not a greeting. It was the pattern the Leviathan had shown her after her near-fatal failure, one she now believed. Meant danger, attack, defend. The sea beneath her trembled. The Leviathan went still for one impossible second. Then it roared, not in fear, not in pain, but in absolute sovereign fury. Kayla gripped the embedded harness claws of her suit as the creature's massive body twisted upward. Driving toward the surface like a missile, the drones reacted too late. One was crushed instantly in the turbulent wake. Another torn in half by the force of ascent. They broke the surface with a sound like thunder underwater. The dreadship loomed above, barely adjusting to the sudden breach. And the Leviathan launched. Its body erupted from the sea, arcing high into the air. Kayla held tight, teeth clenched, heart slamming against her ribs. For a single breathless moment, they hung in flight, monster and rider, silhouetted against the blood-red clouds. Then impact. The Leviathan's armored head drove directly into the dreadship's undercarriage, splintering alloy and organic hull alike. The vessel's central engine core erupted in a cascade of flame and violet plasma. Kayla saw panels explode, drone bays ignite, fragments rain down like dying stars. The beast did not stop. It crashed through the ship's midsection, ripping metal apart with its sheer momentum, until both Leviathan and dreadship plummeted into the sea in a cyclone of fire and fury. The ocean swallowed them whole. Silence, smoke rose. Kayla resurfaced first, clinging to the Leviathan's back as it emerged, wounded but alive. Its bioluminescence flickered erratically, colors flowing across its body like code. Red to orange, orange to blue, not dying, communicating. Kayla reached out, placed her hand on its side. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. Above, the Velkar ship no longer cast a shadow. It was gone, sinking or scattered. No more drones came. No more signals. Only the sound of waves, hissing softly as night claimed the world again. Kayla rolled off the Leviathan's back and into the water, letting the suit's auto-float keep her steady. She gazed up at the beast, at the scars along its flank now glowing with dull gold. She had defied her own command. She had chosen the creature over her people. But as the Leviathan dipped its head toward her once more, pulsing slow sequences of soft green and blue, Kayla knew she hadn't betrayed anyone. She had chosen the side that didn't kill what it couldn't control. She had chosen the side that listened. She raised her arm, turned her light emitter back on, and answered. No one watching would call it a battle, but she had never seen a more perfect victory. The water stilled again. All that remained of the Velkar dreadship was a distant glow beneath the surface, embers. Fading into the deep, wreckage floated in scattered trails behind Kayla, bobbing like the last breath of a failed war. And rising through the steam, Kayla rose surfaced, cradled gently along the ridged spine of the Leviathan. Her suit was torn, oxygen nearly depleted. Her muscles ached with every twitch, her thoughts frayed and fading. But her eyes, half-lidded, trembling, still burned with something stronger than pain. Peace, not the peace of survival, not the shallow peace that came from dodging death one more time. This was the kind of peace that came from finally not having to prove herself through blood. The Leviathan glided toward a shallow plateau of floating stone, an outcrop barely breaching the ocean's skin. It curled its vast body beneath her, lowering Kayla with infinite care until her boots touched solid surface. She collapsed onto her side, breath ragged. Her fingers, bruised and cut, pressed into the cool rock. And then she laughed. It wasn't joy, it was relief. Exhausted, disbelief-laced, soul-deep relief. For the first time in years she had won, without becoming what she hated. Her comm crackled faintly. A weak signal filtered through the upper atmosphere. Just strong enough now that the Velkar patrol vessel was gone. Strider 4, we read you. Transmit your data. Biological scans, battle telemetry, anything you've got. Alliance command is ready to receive. Kayla stared at the blinking panel on her wrist. The suit had recorded everything. The Leviathan's light patterns, movement speeds, vocal resonances, battle footage. To the Alliance, this creature was now more than myth. It was a tactical asset. A biological weapon waiting to be studied, dissected, replicated. She opened the transmission console, paused, then selected Purge All. A red light blinked asking for confirmation. She pressed it. The data vanished. No backups, no cached telemetry. When she opened the final report log, she typed only one sentence. No threat detected. No anomalous species found. Site stable and clear. That was all. She uploaded it. Command acknowledged with a curt reply. No follow-up. No suspicions, at least not yet. The ocean stretched before her again, wide and endless. And behind her the Leviathan lingered, just offshore, half-submerged. Its dorsal lights pulsed in a soft rhythm, matching the heartbeat monitor in Kayla's suit. She rose slowly, using the wreckage of a drone fin as support, and took one final step toward the edge of the stone. The creature's eye watched her, calm and vast, no demand. No promise, just presence. Kayla raised one arm and toggled the manual light control. Her suit, barely functioning, managed a low-frequency pattern, simple, slow. A goodbye. The Leviathan responded, not with a roar, not with movement, but with a glow so subtle, so warm. It looked like a sunrise beneath the sea. It pulsed once, then again, then faded into the deep. Each flare growing dimmer, as the creature sank beneath the waves. Kayla stood until the light was gone, not a single shot fired from her. Not a single trophy claimed, just an understanding forged in silence and risk. Later, they would send another ship to retrieve her. Medical teams would stabilize her vitals, patch her wounds. The debrief would be brief, her story filed away as a minor skirmish, no major intel recovered. An odd anomaly, forgotten quickly in the face of larger wars. No one mentioned the Leviathan, no one knew, but Kayla did. And somewhere out in the deep violet sea of Eridani 7B, so did something else. Something that had once been called a monster, but not anymore. In the end, there was no victory parade, no medals, no promotion, no broadcast footage of a hero returning home. Kayla Rowe was debriefed, treated, and quietly reassigned. The official record listed her mission as a low-priority skirmish with limited tactical outcome. There were no follow-up missions to Eridani 7B, no further inquiries. No one asked about the wreckage of the Velkar dreadship. No one questioned the absence of data. The file was closed. But in the silent spaces between stars, some truths linger even when no one remembers them. This wasn't a story about superior weapons. It wasn't a tale of strategy or domination. No brilliant algorithm saved the day. No advanced AI calculated the perfect kill. And no flagship unleashed a finishing strike. This was a story of asterisk stillness. A story of asterisk listening. Of choosing not to kill when every system screamed for self-defense. Of choosing to speak in light instead of fire. Of resisting the programmed reflexes that had defined Kayla's entire career. For most of her life, Kayla had believed survival meant control, being faster, sharper, more ruthless than anything that threatened her. She had followed protocol until the day it asked her to bomb children. Then she stopped following. They called her a liability. A soldier who hesitated, a woman who couldn't be trusted to pull the trigger. But out on Eridani 7B, no one needed her to pull the trigger. They needed her to asterisk, not asterisk, and that made all the difference. She had faced one of the most powerful life forms ever encountered by humankind, something no scientist could cage. No weapon could guarantee to kill, and she hadn't tamed it by force. She hadn't conquered it. She had learned how to not be a threat. That was harder than war, harder than command. To choose trust over instinct, to put down the gun even when no one told her it was safe to do so. That was her real battle, and she won, not by defeating a monster but by refusing to call it one. In her final personal log, sealed and never transmitted, Kayla recorded her closing thoughts. She didn't write a mission report. She didn't describe the biological structure of the Leviathan, or the way it glowed when it slept, or how its eyes never blinked when it was watching her. Instead, she wrote this: "What we call monsters are often just questions we never learned to ask. I didn't survive Eridani because of my training. I didn't outgun the enemy. I didn't decode some master signal. I survived because I waited long enough to understand that I wasn't the only one afraid. I looked into the eye of something larger than fear, larger than my guilt. And instead of asking how to kill it, I asked if it would let me speak." And if there's anything to be taken from this story, anything to carry forward into the next war, the next contact, the next strange, unknowable species we meet, it's not a tactical insight. It's not a piece of code or a new weapons protocol. It's a question Kayla didn't ask in time on Novex 2. A question she finally remembered to ask when it mattered most. If you are human, don't ask how many things your technology can destroy. Ask instead, can you turn on a light and speak when something bares its teeth? Because survival isn't about domination. It's about whether we still know how to begin a conversation, even when we're terrified of the answer.